If you thought the world was already a crazy, crazy place, it's going to get a lot more intense. We have a full Aries moon that forms a grand cardinal cross in our heavens, and it will bring a huge amount of intensity and tension to the world stage, but also individually propel us in each of our lives to take action and make decisions that bring us into new levels of achievement. Yeah, it can actually work all right in our individual stories, but for the world, oh guys, it's pretty hard to go into how much stuff I think might be going on here. A full moon in Aries is normally a fullness of will, of drive, of power, of heroic action, but it happens to also be full from a new moon that was a total solar eclipse on April the 8th at 19 Aries. It's taking cue from an eclipse energy. It's not any old full moon shining completion light or revelation light into the world. It happens to be in a square to Mars in its fall in Cancer and a square to Pluto in Capricorn direct, creating at that angle just a T square, but you have a sun-moon opposition, which is why the moon is full. So we end up with this big, like a crucifixion cross in our sky. So we're going to break it down for how it looks for the world and for you. We got some minor asteroids that are in the mix. We have the dwarf planet Eris as well. Minor asteroids always play a role in the story of the world. And we have the asteroid Fortuna playing a pretty big role in how the moon is reflecting her light in the sky. Also, I'm going to talk about the beautiful stars Spica and Arcturus. They're embedded within this full moon. And so it has a bit of a saving grace energy, as the Spica Arcturus solar energy is what the moon is reflecting in Aries. It's still a pretty tough sky, and I'm not going to dice it any other way. You know, you can try to make, lemons from lemonade, and we do that in astrology. Lemonade from lemons. We do that in astrology, so everybody doesn't want to get under the covers and bed seek, right? We want to bring the nice stuff up, but it's not going to be one of those nice full moons for the world. It happens to be a full moon that is co-joined with Kamala Harris's own natal full moon. It happens to be a full moon that's going to get complicated by being connected to Donald Trump's house of hospitals and self-undoing Saturn-Venus placements. It's right square those placements for him. It's going to be sitting on Vladimir Putin's natal Mercury. It's going to be sitting on opposite the sun of Netanyahu. It's also a Libra sun, just as is Kamala at 27 Libra, both of those two. And it's going to also be connected to the Israeli ascendant at 23 degrees, the nation of Israel's ascendant at 23 degrees of Libra, meaning it's right on its descendant of open enemies and those who would oppose the nation. A full light is there. So we see that this energy impacts major global stories that are ongoing, and yes, just before a USA election, and dramatically impacting Harris, but also to some degree Trump. Just before this moon on the 14th of the month of October, around that time, Venus will be opposite Uranus, and we may see a shocking story involving a female in our news cycle just as this moon approaches. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit today. I'm going to give you an astrology lesson. If you're up for it, I hope you are, because I'm going to talk about the synodic cycle. And the synodic cycle is to let you know, well, so we have a moon and it's full and it's cardinal squaring out, creating a big grand cross in the sky. I'm going to show it to you, which can bring achievement and greatness, but also tension and extremes. But we also have the energy here going on in the sky of Pluto Mars dancing with this moon, or combating it like in a big square dance. And Pluto and Mars energy is not easy. It is often associated with ruthlessness and brutality and extremes of violence and force. And we will not see the world looking like a bed of roses as this Mars-Pluto opposition squares at Aries war moon. Mars is the ruler of the full moon. It is happening in his house. He's all emotional. He's super over the top, and he can't keep charge of his emotions. He can overreact in the sign of the mother, in the sign of Cancer. But it's interesting because the moon's home kingdom is Cancer. And so therefore, the moon is saying, Mars, what are you doing in my kingdom? And Mars is saying, Moon, what are you doing in my kingdom, it's called a mutual reception. They're in each other's houses. And this can also look good for this moon because of the kind of like hotline they have up to each other right away. They can call each other, water the plants, take the dog out. So the reception can bring something better than normal from this kind of Mars moon square. But also, this Mars-Pluto opposition is a part of a larger story. And I wish you would get a pen or a paper if you really want to understand something I'm about to show you. I did not make a graphic for this. But what we have is Mars squaring Pluto from the Mars conjunction on February 14th of 2024. So on Valentine's Day, Mars and Pluto joined together in Aquarius. And this joining together of these two planets indicates a kind of a union. And then over the course of 2 years until January of 2026, when they unite again in Aquarius, but a little further down the degrees, then this cycle continues all along the time, 20 years, every 2 years for 20 years, Mars will meet with Pluto in Aquarius, because that's where Pluto's traveling. We've been going through since 2008, Mars meeting with Pluto in Capricorn. So we started a new air cycle of what Mars and Pluto could achieve together as they unite for the next 2 decades, every 2 years in Aquarius. When Mars and Pluto came together in February 13th, 14th of 2024, because this was going to activate world events and we're seeing the spin cycle of that continue, it's worth noting what Mars and Pluto have been doing in that synodic cycle so far vis-a-vis major world events. Now, for example, I want you to go back to October the 9th, 2023, because on October the 9th, 2023, Mars was finishing up another conjunction cycle with Pluto. However, that was in Capricorn, the top-down power structures, the dark fathers, the end of the era of the dark fathers, and the corruption and power and greed, corporatocracy, oligarchy, tyrants, dictators, hegemonies that rule the world. And so Mars coming down in the end of its Mars cycle with a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn was October the 9th. And what happened on October the 9th is that Mars was in Libra with the south node of fate squaring Pluto. And yes, that was correspondent to the Hamas attack on the nation of Israel. So we know that Mars and Pluto has a role in this. One of the many reasons an eclipse, October that year as well, on the ascendant, 23-degree ascendant of Israel, we know Mars-Pluto has been playing the game of war in the Middle East. So I want to bring your attention to that, because there's no way that this Mars-Pluto opposition squaring the ascendant of Israel, where the sun is sitting and the moon right on the descendant, is not more collateral, ghastly details of what's going on in the Middle East. Technically, for example, in February, when Mars and Pluto co-joined in Aquarius, we saw horrific stories coming out in the news cycle early in February about the little girl Hind who was left in the car and basically machine gunned to death. We know that story, all the emergency phone calls. We had the horrific story in February of the people getting food aid and being basically gunned down, right? As they all running for the trucks and the food aid, and all the visual footage of that event. These kinds of horrific things were what Mars and Pluto began to create in February of 2024. And then in June of 2024, Mars and Pluto were squaring. That's a synodic cycle, the opening square, the opening act. And that was definitely, Mars was in the sign of Taurus, his detriment, and squaring Pluto in the sign of, at that time, Aquarius. Don't forget, Pluto was in Aquarius through this year until September 1st. He's back in Capricorn for a last era-ending hurrah. And then now we have this opposition between Mars and Pluto in Capricorn Cancer. And then on September 24th of 2025, we'll have the last Pluto-Mars square of this cycle, and that will have Mars in the sign of Scorpio squaring Pluto in September of 25 in the sign of Aquarius. Now, because I can see that this is so tightly bound, I'm going to talk world astrology first, to the war in the Middle East. I want to talk about world event astrology first, Then we'll do your sign. I have even forgot to introduce myself. My name is Lori Lothy, and I'm using Western Tropical Zodiac whole sign houses, and I will talk fixed stars and minor asteroids in almost all of my videos. My value add is predictive astrology, but when I get to your sign, I'm also trying to help you time your best life by navigating some of the most intense skies of 2024, especially for this full moon. When you listen for your sign, I'll be talking about how this ties into the eclipse cycle that you've been enduring or going through the Libra axis and the Aries axis of your sky since last year, 2023, in the spring. And I want you to think about this then, therefore, as an extension of a longer learning curve and a cycle that you've been on when it comes to destined change in this part of your chart. And I'll be describing, of course, the T-square tension for you. It is going to be important because it's cardinal and it will demand change in each of our lives in the 4 points of the square. So when you listen for your sign, listen for your sun, your moon, and rising. Sun, career purpose, solar self, main identity. Rising sign, everything about you in the character you play in the game of life. Moon, matters to do with your home, your mind, your emotions, those sorts of things, as well as mother and mother figures. Just like the sun can in your chart represent your dad or father figures. Okay, so let's get rolling and talk about some of the things I wish to mention here. Number one, if you are a cardinal sign, an Aries, sun, moon, and rising, etc., and a Libra, and a Cancer, and a Capricorn, and you're anywhere, let's make it nicely last decan, right? Anywhere between 20 and 29 degrees, sun, moon, and rising in the cardinal signs of Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, you are by all means going to have an amazingly intense change energy come out of this particular full moon. Don't forget, you seeded something. We all seeded something back in April 8th, and that was an eclipse energy with a new beginning and a portal for destined change. And this is a full moon, not an eclipse, just the full moon, fulfilling the mandate, fulfilling, harvesting, bringing something into fullness, or lighting up and completing, like completions, and lighting up something that must be addressed in the Aries part of our sky individually and collectively. Aries is war. It's time to finish war, complete war. I don't think it's going to happen on this round because I do not like the Pluto square Mars. But when you're listening, listen for that. I gave you a heads up, you cardinals, we are in the thick of it. Now, one thing of an Aries sun and moon, one thing I want to mention here is what happens when Pluto and Mars are talking to each other in a difficult aspect pattern. I have the combination of stellar influences, Pluto, Mars opposition to each other, squaring the sun, squaring the moon, right? Grand cross, full moon. And this book is something I've had for years. I have 2 of them. Maybe I should give one away and mail one to somebody. Reinhard Ebertin. And he just gives you little cheat sheets of planetary combinations. But he does have a nice little Mars-Pluto thing. And he talks about Mars and Pluto in its darker side, being ruthlessness, brutality, and cruelty. A person who wants to use force or compulsion at every occasion. Okay. So brutality, ruthlessness, force, and compulsion can manifest in the outer world as violent assaults, injuries. Now, when we look at Renn Butler, the Archetypal Universe, a friend of mine and a teacher, handy book always to have as an astrologer in your collection. He has a nice little deep dive into Mars-Pluto in some great phraseology. So on the positive side, Mars-Pluto can be the will to do and the soul to dare, because Mars's action and soul and greater evolutionary transpersonal will is Pluto. But in the dark side, there are certain energies of force, control, explosiveness. He has, I feel an army in my fist, as a quote by a guy named Schiller with a Mars-Pluto in his chart. And then those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. There's another quote of that's very Mars-Pluto shadow. I'm extraordinarily patient, provided I get my own way, Margaret Thatcher. And when you really go down the rabbit hole, dominating, dangerous, predatory, commanding, he actually uses in the archetype section, which he wrote this book a long time ago, like before the Middle East War, death and rebirth struggles, volcanic forces, cathartic forces, the fires of hell, fire-breathing dragons, the clash of the titans, the Old Testament battles and massacres, Zeus as a rapist, the centaurs and the Lapith women. That's the whole story. I won't say too much more about that. And then when we break it down a little bit more, and he talks about what happens when you get Mars and Pluto combined with the sun. Combative nature, because Mars is with Pluto is squaring the sun. Combative nature, ruthless ambition, willpower, and ruthless willpower, overexertion of oneself and pushing too hard. What about Mars Pluto relating to the moon, because it's squaring our full moon? A propensity for severe emotional reactions and outbursts, dark or aggressive situations that push one's inner buttons, hurting oneself, or pushing too hard. We see a lot of pushing too hard energy with Pluto stories, right? Now, Pluto can represent things where there's a desire to assert extreme control, right? Like police brutality during riots, for example, especially when involved with Mars. So there's no easy way to say it. Mars is, not going to be playing nicely in the sky. Mars is the malefic, and also he's a warrior, and he's in his condition of fall, and he's overly emotional, overly reactive, overly impulsive, sort of like flying off the handle with his sword, and yes, he could be fiercely protective, like a fierce mother bear in Cancer, especially a home, property, homeland, family. But some people think their family is their ethnic group. Some people think their family is their religious group, right? So whatever you think Mars wants to defend, that defends the family, it may not be your family. It may be your religious group, your ethnic group. So you call that your fam. So Mars is going to go out there and fight for home and homeland and territory and family. That's what his disposition is when he's in his emotional fall in the sign of Aries. So look for a lot of land grabs and wars around land coming up during this situation. We do have Putin's Mercury involved, so there goes more stories over in that part of the world, but also Vladimir Putin, as well as Saudi Arabia, as well as China, are all saying, back off of Iran, please. You guys over there are losing your mind. So there's an assertion of alliance there, and Putin's a part of that. So with this Mercury getting involved in the full moon, it may not be what we think. It may not be a Ukraine story. It may be more involved in what's going on in the Middle East. Keep that in mind. Vladimir Putin is a Scorpio rising, in case you don't know. It's Scorpio, Venus in the first house. This puts a lot of the Libra Aries axis in his chart, like highly stimulating of his secret backroom deals and negotiations, 6th house, 12th house, and his 6th house. But the Mars Pluto axis, pretty intense for him as well, right? Going through a part of his sky, the 9th house of foreign affairs and foreign events and things he would do with foreigners, and the 3rd house as well. So we'll be talking a little bit about the bigger picture as we approach the actual date. I'll do an update video because I don't know how. I'm recording for you on October the 8th. This is an early video, so I will readdress the situations with the world leaders. I will particularly dive into Harris's chart, but just know that a full moon on her moon, yeah, okay, it's a big deal for her, a really, really big deal. And a full moon right on the descendant of the nation of I, probably blew it already, I said the name 3 times, cannot be a good thing. It's a full moon on the place where its open enemies reside. Like for the nation of Iran, this is in Leo, they're Leo rising. This full moon benefits that nation. It's not consequentially as harmful as it is for the cardinal signed nation of Israel. But for Leo rising Iran, having a trine flow from a full moon in the sign of Aries, in the house of foreign places and foreign lands, the 9th house, it does not look too particularly harmful, right? I have to say that. So let's go ahead and do a few thoughts about it. I'm going to show you the sky, then we're going to do your sign. I'll be doing a follow-up video because I think this is too important a moon during an election cycle to not cover any more details than what I'm going to do today. But I need to see what is happening in the sky to make commentary, and I'm too far away because I'm recording for my Patreon community today on the 8th, who gets early access ad-free content. All right. Here we have our sky. This is October the 17th. You'll notice that it's October the 17th and that we have the moon at 24 degrees and 35 minutes and that we have the sun at 24 degrees and 35 minutes and the moon is across the way reflecting the light of the sun. I think I'm going to have to stop the share and ask myself why my aspect patterns are not showing up for the opposition on my software. I must have somehow deactivated it. So let's fix that because it's going to drive me nuts. Of course, we want to see the oppositions I don't even know how that got deactivated. Yes, of course, the opposition should be showing. I fixed it. Like, I don't know when that happened, you know? I mean, I see the oppositions without seeing a red line, but it would be easier if I had the showing for you guys. Don't forget, if you're new to my channel, I didn't even advertise the thing that ends October 31st. I'm so not there today. My 2024 all sign 25 all sign video bundle and or individual videos up to 2 hours long each, delivered November 17th to your inbox, are currently for sale at the pre-sale price. Please grab them. This is because I'm recording the content, and on November 17th, it's delivered to your inbox. It's never on YouTube. It's a deep dive with a PDF guidebook that I'm creating for you for your sign. And it is now on sale until the end of the month of October. Check the description box below. And it's my fundraiser to buy equipment, time stampers, assistants, research assistants, people I need to help me do this channel, because I'm a one-woman show and it's not easy and I need help. So usually I used to buy equipment. Now I'm hiring people and getting some people to help me. Okay, so here we go. This is the sky. And we're going to go back to basics. So the full moon is sitting here lighting up Aries, 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 big full light in Aries, and it's opposite the sun. You're probably wondering what these little itty bitsy things are beside the moon. Number one, this is Fortuna. Fortuna is Lady Luck, but she doesn't just bring luck. She brings the swings of fate. Where she goes, nobody knows, round and round like a roulette wheel or a Ferris wheel. Luck goes up and luck goes down. The fortunes and the fates of Fortuna are there. So it's not always good. It's just the fates are working strongly on this full moon. You also notice that there is an asteroid thing. That's a dwarf planet called Eris, and she's the shit disturber, excuse my language, who tossed an apple into a situation that caused a war. Okay, she caused a war. She's supposed to be the fierce feminine, the wife, the sister of Aries, the god of war, so a feminine war god, really, goddess. So we got a feminine goddess associated with a causal indication for war. She triggered a war by tossing an apple into a situation and asking people to say who's the fairest of them all. And so we can go with sort of someone, the energetic of a initiating factor for war is what I would say she represents here. And also, this little symbol is Demeter. Demeter is the mother of Persephone, who was abducted into the underworld, and Demeter or Demeter had to save her daughter Persephone from the underworld and Pluto and Pluto's shenanigans of stealing the fair maiden and making her stay as his wife in the underworld. So we have a rescuing mother archetype, but we also have the mother who had to deal with a big loss of her child, a traumatic loss of her child, abducted into the underworld. We could go hostages here, right? People who are abducted or taken. So we could go with the hostage story and say there's a big intensity, attention aspect square in the sky about the hostage story. Do you see the tension? Do you see it? There's Chiron, who was embedded in the eclipse, and we'll be going back into that same spot where the eclipse happened, exactly end of December, but he was in the eclipse that happened at 19 degrees on April the 8th, the Chironic wound around war. Chiron, always the noble warrior. He mentored Achilles and Hercules to not kill unless absolutely necessary, and he was not that guy who would go to war without, willy-nilly. There would certainly be no such thing as ethnic C or geocides with Chiron in the mix. He mentored the healers and healers of the world, heroes and healers of the ancient world. And because he's embedded in the solar eclipse, the total solar eclipse is swathed across the United States, making an X from the Libra eclipse in the fall of 2023. This is how there is an attempt by the sky to heal the wounds of war, not one war, but war itself. Now, Salacia on the North Node, the seashell goddess, is about scandals, scandalous stories, shocking stories, scandalous, gossipy, shocking news and stories. Yes, about war. Mars is up here with Libitina, the funeral asteroid. It was very close together, Mars and Libitina, during the time that Nasrallah was assassinated or killed. And that is somebody who was, for the Hezbollah people and other nations in the world, revered as a leader of a resistance movement, basically, or whatever you want to call it. and had been in power since 1990. And so Libitina Mars led to that loss of a leader. And it's kind of interesting. I'm going to tell you something I just listened to yesterday. Give me a minute. And there's Pluto. And what we end up getting is we get this. You can't see the lines are too light here, but they're already in the software. And that is a grand cross. And it's cardinal, meaning it's hitting the cardinal signs of Aries and Libra and Cancer and Capricorn. This is the last time Pluto can be a part of a grand cross that's cardinal, because he'll never be in Capricorn in our lifetimes, or at least in this sign. He'll get to, not in our lifetimes either, but for, he'll finally get over to Taurus. But that's the last time we can have a cardinal grand cross with Pluto involved. Okay, in most of our lifetimes, with Pluto involved in Capricorn. So it's important because it's ending a Capricorn dark fathers era that we have been going through since 2008. Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. People hate Black Lives Matter. Who cares what the institution is? It's like, let's pay attention to the fact that police brutality against people of color is not fair. Okay, can we not just go there? So we have the exposure of police brutality against people of color. We have the exposure of Weinstein and Harvey Epstein and Me Too and dark sides of power and patriarchy and control. We have the dark sides of plutocracy. We have the dark sides of Wall Street and money and manipulation and the subprime loan scandal and the bailout and the crisis and Occupy Wall Street. We've seen the dark sides of corruption, greed, despot energy, despots in power, ever since Pluto showed us what was always there and revealed it to us, beginning in 2008 as he entered Capricorn and is doing a last stand at 29, anaretic, masterful, completion, intense, and turbulent degree. The anaretic degree is intense. Indeed, Pluto will be Mars will be exactly opposite Pluto around the 2nd and 3rd of the month of November. And by Halloween, we're getting pretty darn close. Okay. All Hallows Eve. So, but it's still by aspectual connection of 6 degrees on this moon, an absolute opposition with the god of funerals, Libitina, sitting up here. Donald Trump has his sun in his solar return chart for this election year, sitting on Sirius the dog star, which is the sun of the United States of America. This does not bode well for him because his sun and the American sun, the sun of the USA, is also embedded within the T square. And so for a nation with its sun in the house of death, it is not auspicious at all. Now, we saw that the hurricane that came through already, Helen or Helene, was happening when Venus was traveling with the asteroid Typhoon. It's also connected to Mars at the bending of the nodes of fate. I covered that in other videos. But also, Venus is sitting with Cetus. Let me get the pronunciation. C2. Anyway, like a whale. Let me clear this up for a sec so I can read it to you. Let's just say, this particular asteroid she's sitting with at the anaretic 29th degree of Scorpio, and a sign of her detriment, is another one to do with dangers at sea. Sea monsters, gorgons, hydras, dark and dangerous sea-related things. Danger at sea, okay? Asteroid for danger at sea. And so we do already know, I'm recording, unfortunately, and sadly, before maybe a Cat 5 hurricane is going to hit the US coast yet again. I'm recording on Tuesday, the 8th, that there's more water destruction and turbulence ahead. But because Venus is a ruler of the sun, and because Venus is the ruler of what is being reflected in the full moon, it can indicate hardship at water connected to matters of war, okay? So again, when we know of naval ships, boats, whatever, things going on at water and war themes may exacerbate, not just on the full moon of October 17th, but over the 2 weeks that follow, and to some extent, the 6 months that follow. Finally, you can see that South Node has been traveling here with Juno, the goddess of connected partnerships and agreements. What partnerships could end, what partnerships can break up, what alliances and treaties can fall apart as a result of this full moon. I don't expect it's what we all think it is. I don't think it's as obvious as all that. We already saw France back out of its support for Israel. That's a breaking of an alliance and a treaty. I portended that in other videos. South Node and Juno means peace treaties broken, letting go, releasing, defragmenting, fragmenting up, defragging existing alliances. And so the BRICS nations has been a result of what's been going on as the South Node has been moving through Libra. But now we have Juno, we almost end up with a couple, like a husband, wife, king and queen in Mount Olympus, and a fracture or a breakage here, because this is being reflected in a full moon light. I don't know what fracture and breakage there could be. This is going to be on Kamala Harris's sun and also on Netanyahu's sun. And so their own breakages and fractures may be in the news cycle. Joe Biden is in power, apparently. But if he is out of power because he has a Libitina moment with Mars, his sun is at 27 degrees of Scorpio and his moon is around 0 Taurus. They're both under a lot of celestial sky pressure, to say the least, especially his sun with Uranus back on Algol squaring his sun, opposite his sun, which is his vitality, and a fallen Venus on his sun at the same time. So maybe Joe Biden won't be in power. Maybe he has to step down for illness or even worse reasons. And Kamala is thrust into power from a full moon like this. Because you see, it's an achievement square. These big grand crosses bring success and achievement and greatness into individual lives. But for the collective, and to some extent, each of us, it feels like we're in a kind of a battle, like forces are opposing each other, right? Sun, moon, and Mars, Pluto, and then squaring. And so everything's like gritty and grindy and tense, and you have to take action and you must make decisions, because squares force action and decisions, and oppositions show competing agendas. Now, there is a Sabian symbol for this, and it is interesting because the Sabian symbol for the moon, round up to 25 Aries, a double promise. It says a double promise. But when you look at the dark side, it says duplicity and trickery for the double promise. I'll promise you a rose garden. I'll promise you a rose garden. Well, you can't give both sides the same thing, maybe in a war, can you? So duplicity and trickery can be a part of it. Duality. It could also be about inner and outer. Things to do with two choices, right? Because as a Sabian symbol, you must interpret it a double promise, a double promise. On the other hand, two-ness, everything has two sides. In a war, that's true. Everything has two sides. Everyone has their own excuse for what's going on. The polarity in the world, like even around the US election, has gotten absolutely rabid. People are not kind. People are taking offense rather than have discussions. It's insane how much polarity we are experiencing in our world at this time. It's crazy. Jupiter is will station retrograde October the 9th. He was direct. And when he stationed retrograde October the 9th, he stationed on Mars in the United States Sibley chart. This is USA's house of open enemies. The last time that happened, within a couple of months, Pearl Harbor and Japan and the war against Japan. And then shortly right after that, the war with the getting involved in Europe's war with Italy and Germany declaring war against the United States. So basically, I think that's what it was, or Russia and Italy. But the United States got pulled into the war after Jupiter stationed on Mars in the United States' 7th house of open enemies in the Sibley chart. You put that stationary story, October 9th, in the backdrop of this, and we still think, okay, guys, it's pretty intense right now. Uranus is sitting on Algol yet again, pretty close to the 17th. It's exact squaring Donald Trump on his midheaven, squaring his ascendant and his own Mars. Again, another occasion for Trump to be in harm's way. His Saturn in Cancer, Venus in Cancer in his 12th house is getting squared by this particular moon, and Mars is on those placements, and that is a house of hospitals, or it's also the house of self-undoing, or his 12th house can be the house of jails. I don't think he's going to jail, at least not this time. So we shall see. My concern is for his physical aliveness at this point. Now let's get rid of this hot mess and do individual signs. I will be doing an update video when I know what happens, like what's happening, but every full moon indicates things that could occur 3 days before the full moon. So 3 days before the 17th, on the 14th, we got Venus opposite Uranus, from Scorpio, and up to 6 months after, but often we see the meat of the moon, right? The real meaning of the moon within 2 weeks after the moon. So you don't really have to wait all of that long. Now, what I'm going to do is go through every sign. I'm going to give you some advice. I'm going to give you advice about how to handle the cardinal axis in your chart and what axis it is in, because we have different meanings of certain axes in our sky. I'll be delineating that for you. Cardinality is about change. It's so simple, guys. It's change. You need to take actions and make decisions to initiate change in your life. So this is a change moon for you on steroids. I may title it like change your life now or else. But it's literally change your life now or else. And each of us will change our life in a different way. So let's go through that together. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and hit my notification bell. And if you haven't checked out my 2025 pre-sale videos, check the description box below. I forgot to mention it, though. I forgot to mention it at the beginning of my video. I might recount that it's still for sale when I do each of your signs. Let's get going. Let's get started, shall we? I'm going to move into the Aries story first, and then we will continue around the wheel. All right, let's move into Aries, sun, moon, and rising, guys. All right, I am one of you. I have a sun and a moon here. Number one, I want to remind you, you've been going through an eclipse cycle. We all have, in which it's all about Aries. Aries have had North Node eclipses energetically shifting their reality since 2023 April. And that last eclipse that happened here on April the 8th at 19 Aries is impacting us because it is fulfilling something over the course of up to a year. And this full moon is a sort of shine the flashlight on what the change is that we must make. Be the change, Aries, because it's in the sign of you. If it's your sun, it's your career. If it's your moon, your home and body and mind. And if it's your rising sign, body, mind, complex character, everything about you. It's a big identity shift with Chiron. You're healing an identity wound, how you felt wounded in your identity since 2019 when Chiron entered into your first house. Now you're healing the identity wound in some way. The who am I am, your I am qualities are changing. And now that you see this sky, full moon here, big sky, you notice that you're being forced to change because you don't have a choice. You've got transpersonal will planet, direct motion, Pluto in your 10th house. And it's also opposite Mars in your 4th house of home, property, land, and real estate. And it's also opposite, of course, a sun connected to the goddess of partnerships, agreements, and alliances, and what must be let go of in that part of your sky. Now, don't forget, it's not that Libra says end your marriage. Some of you have marriages, some of you have long-term love stories. It's those one-on-one relationships that don't work right now, right? You're trying to release it. Like for me, I'm not seeing clients these days, and I may not go back. I got booked up through to end of December months ago, and I'm like, I know, I'm not even sure I'm going to open my calendar up again. I need to let go of one-on-one client work. It doesn't fulfill me as it used to, right? For many, many reasons. And so, you might also find that you're letting go of a relationship or the way you exist in that relationship. Not that the ending of the relationship, but the dynamic will end. And why you're getting sort of a kind of do or die, ride or die. I maybe I'll call this a ride or die because it's like Mars, like he's swimming, sure, but it's ride or die, ride or die. What are you gonna do? Mars says, make changes in your home, from your home, about your home, in relationship to your significant partner's love relationships and or business client audience marketplace. Pluto applies to you and says, moving direct, final show on your career. What is it about? Where's authentic richness and power in your career space? What does it look like? Because your wealth, your power, your authority, your prominence, your richness, and transformation of all of those career matters since 2008 are now coming home into a healed, whole, new character of you. The changes you need to make are extremely angular: change of home, change of relationship status, marketplace, clients, and changes in your career. The big four are changing: houses 1, 4, 7, and 10, cardinal house energy. So it is an axis that is about spinning the wheel of one's fate, spinning the wheel of one's destiny. So you have a sense here that you must move forward. One thing I would say about this energy is that the goodness of Jupiter in your third house does somewhat buffer the story. You know, you could say that maybe Jupiter moving this way towards your ascendant in retrogradation says, there, it's okay. I'll bring you some third house luck and I'll deepen the bounty that we've already accomplished here. So it's going to also say, well, will you let go of home or relationship or career matters and re-identify yourself in a new way? You begin to grow a new bounty, a new plenty, a new goodness, of something to do with writing, teaching, traveling, connection to neighbors and neighborhood and siblings. The side story is lovely. The side story is generous for you and sweet. And we do not mind that Jupiter wants to apply some depth of plenty to whatever our third house matters are for each of us. So there's a soft spot to remind us that even while this is a very intense full moon in Aries, it is receiving some love from Jupiter at 21 degrees, looking over at the full moon and saying, it's okay, you'll be fine. And by the way, the moon has moved to Taurus. That's because I advanced the chart. I'll fix that for the next sign. Best I can, guys. The moon is a fast mover, okay? That's the problem, okay? And the only other thing I'd mention for you, I mean, you are ruled by Mars. And when Mars is in his detriment in your fourth house, watch for temperaments, tempers, fights, conflict, a hot spot emotions within the home with those with whom you live. It can be that Mars is really stirring up dissension in the home. He'll be here through till November the 4th and then back again January 6th through to April 18th. So you've got to get used to this story, but that back and forth can really be about changing your home and moving and maybe moving back to a place where you've lived before in his retrogradation. And even a change of homeland is possible for some of you during this story of Mars's extraordinarily long stay in Cancer. Go watch my Mars story, my Mars in Cancer video. I cover the other dates he's been here for you. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. So basically, we see the energy of a full moon that's connected to the eclipses that began in April of 2023 in Aries. This last eclipse on April the 8th is what is being fulfilled here. What major seeds of change have you planted, Taurus, regarding addiction, self-undoing, and bad habits? How are you your own worst enemy, and how are you rectifying that? Chiron helping you heal those addictions and self-undoing patterns. Now, honestly, this is a beautiful energy for you because full moons light up and show you what it is you need to see about your own inner life that is literally no longer okay. You could break the karmic chains that bind you on a moon like this and over the course of the weeks that follow. And some of the karmic chains that bind you may be connected to mom and dad and growing up and family of origin, for this full moon reflects the light of the sun, who is the ruler of your house of childhood. So childhood wounds, childhood stories, childhood family systems patterns are breaking away. Karmic debts are falling away. This is a very magical axis, the 6 and 12, but also where the square is, the 9 and 3 are the metacosmos houses between the worlds beyond this world. And therefore, you might indeed be really letting go at a deep spiritual level regarding old beliefs, old faiths, old ideas, old patterns, etc. The sun is reflected by the moon and it's in the house of work and sickness. Some of you may indeed end a path of work or change a path of work, but also you may also look at ways to shine a light, a full moon light in your 12th house about how your own psychological, spiritual, and inner life is a part of what ails you in your physical health. because this house of sickness is where the sun is sitting. Now, you may also break away from and let go of a relationship that is highly karmatic with the South Node here with Juno, or you may break a legal contract or agreement regarding debt as a result of what I'm seeing here. Now you're being pressured by the sky. It is a very intense energy that's pushing you to make changes. It's got that cardinal signature of the signs. And so you must make change. You must take action. You must move forward. You must resolve the tension of the sky. And with Mars in his fall in the third house, tension with siblings is a problem, particularly one younger, but even siblings in general, neighbors, neighborhood, aunts, uncles, cousins, the extended family, and whatever conflicts exist with them are looking for you to put it to rest. Libitina, rest in peace, put it to bed, time to let it go. You may also notice that the opposition between Pluto up in your ninth house and Mars is on an axis that we associate with spiritual faith. Whether it's the house of God in the 10th, ninth, or the house of the goddess in the third, your beliefs, your ideas about the meaning of life, the meaning of your life are really being activated. You might want to go on a pilgrimage with this thing. You might want to go find a temple. You might want to go see an oracle or a diviner. You're looking for guidance and meaning. You're seeking for answers here. You may also be up against a crucible of pressure regarding matters to do with visas, passports, travel, foreign land, involvements with local neighbors and neighborhoods, things to do with work. If your work is connected to the neighborhood situation, like you work in a local bar or something, you might also be dealing with a major critical turning point regarding matters of education, because both 12, 9, and 3 can stimulate the educational axis. And you may be thinking of quitting school, going back to school, signing up for a new program in school, but there's so much like pressure, so much intensity here, looking at you squarely on the 17th of October, 3 days before and up to 2 weeks after, but reminding you that you're changing deeply, deeply the hidden psychological, spiritual, and unconscious structures of reality that you have been operating under because of this energy of eclipses. It continually activate the 12th house. 12th house is hospitals. Pluto's in the house of a father figure. Some of you may end up seeing a father figure in the hospital in the weeks or months that follows this big full moon, connected to eclipses in the house of hospitals. And what about the fact that it is also chironic, right? It's not even healing about, so if someone is in the hospital, then you're healing the relationship with the person who ends up in the hospital, kind of thing, right? It's not just a temporary thing. It's a deeper thing than that. Mars is in a travel house opposite Pluto. And if I was being actively guiding you, I'd say don't travel if I were you on this full moon, because Mars is a god of accidents in the house of cars, trains, planes, and automobiles opposite Pluto, the god of death, especially international travel. If you can avoid international travel on and around the 17th, I would do that. I wouldn't choose that time for international travel. That's all I'll say. And Jupiter is applying in a beautiful little sextile to this particular moon. And this is sweet, right? This is like he's retrograde, but he's actually going toward the moon. So some good things want to happen in your finances as a result of this moon. You may indeed be finding a financial increase coming your way over the course of the 2 weeks that follow the moon's fullness, or even in a longer way. But the financial increase, like 6 months later, don't forget, we could see some financial increase through inheritances. Jupiter is the ruler of your 8th house, but retrograding from the house of your possessions toward the moon in the house of hospitals. All said and done, on a very rare occasion, some of your Tauruses could come into money. Mercury and Jupiter retrograde, though, it's like good guy Santa Claus is trying to make something happen. He's the lemonade maker here that can benefit you in your prosperity, financial resources as a result of this grinding change that wants to take place, right? And he does flow to the sun, and he does flow to the moon, creates a little nice little wedge, right? I'm going to do a little wedge video separately as we get closer to the big event, but it can open up new avenues of prosperity. I just don't really overhype the negative or underplay the positive, but there's just a lot going on here. All right. Excuse me while I de-annotate my hot mess. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, hey, we got a Cardinal Grand cross forming on a full moon in Aries. You've been having eclipses in Aries in your 11th house of good spirit, but friends, friendship groups, friendship circles, influence over groups of people. This has been an expansion, a volume up since series of eclipses occurring ever since April of 2023. Now, the last eclipse, April 8th of this year, 2024, is seeding something that you're now fulfilling in a full moon. How can you find a flashlight of new light, of revelation and expansion and intensification and growth in your 11th house of influence, in your 11th house of groups of people? Celebrity even is here. You want to be big and full and lighting up, and you may be scandalous, right? Scandal and could follow you up here in your public reputation with good old Salacia, North Node. But you're also healing wounds here. You have wounds around your friendship circles and groups since 2019. You might have felt wounded by your career gains, in particular, being underperforming since 2019. And you're healing some of these wounds all together with this full moon. Yet, and the fortunes and the fates are up there, Fortuna. Yet also, what about the fact that the moon is reflecting a sun in your 5th house of creativity, entrepreneurship, romance, and sexuality that is also with the South Node and the goddess of agreements, Juno, contracts, Juno. You may fulfill a contractual agreement in the 6 months that follows this moon. That's a possibility, full light, a fulfillment of something it's reflecting. And it could bring you some really great career gains to fulfill that contract. It could be a writing contract, a book contract, a contract or an agreement you've made connected to your entrepreneurial business, if you have an entrepreneurial business, right? So all of these things, or your children, a full moon is reflecting the light of things that go on with your children, your real kids, and it's kind of an axis of positivity. The 5th house is good fortune and the 11th house is good spirit. Both of those houses can be financial, and you could bring some new bounty and pennies from heaven, windfalls into your life. Even though this is a difficult square, right? I'm going to get to that. The axis is positive, and Spica, Arcturus are luck stars and wealth stars that are being reflected in the house of pennies from heaven. I'd say some of you with Fortuna, Lady Luck, are going to get windfalls, you Geminis, coming off of this full moon. Prosperity and bounty and windfall are good luck is coming there for sure. But the square is also here. We can't forget we have other players, and that's that's the Mars-Pluto opposition. Now, Libitina, put something to rest, like a funeral, right? Like a rest in peace archetype. Where would you put something to rest in the earnings and possessions house? Well, you could put to rest a job. I mean, because Mars is trining Venus and Scorpio, you might want to let go of the work you're doing, change your career path, change your job, retire out. So, but you would also get power and riches up here in the chunky money house, which is like, insurance payouts or money you'd get from an inheritance or money you would get from winning that lottery ticket down here with the sun on Spica. Look, I have a progressed Gemini sun, and I'll let you know if I win the lottery, okay? But it's possible that you could win money off of this big T square. But the tension is the actions and decisions that must be made in connection with financial matters, right? Houses 11, 2, 5, and 8 are money houses. So big financial and resourceful energies are being activated in the sky for you. There's no two ways about it. Energy wise, you might find yourself wanting to quit something that you do in the work you do, and it feels harmonious, true, easy, and right. Jupiter is in a great deal of flow, and considering that he is moving in the direction of the moon, coming toward it, and the moon is moving toward him, right? That they're kind of trying to meet in the middle, that there is a kind of feeling that Jupiter wants you to identify yourself as Jupiter and take the goodness you can from the 11th house. Is it a completion or fulfillment of a role you play in the world that involves groups of people, or of a particular fulfillment with regards to friends and friendship circles or completions as well? Yet you are the Jupiter in the sky. You're the one who's playing queen and king of Mount Olympus. Or in essence, you're on the top of the mountain, and you're lucky and you're contemplative because he's retrograde. You're making sure you get the power source from within. The goodness, the light, the dispelling of darkness, the bounty, the plenty, the faith, and the hope are inside of you. And you want to find it inside of you so that as you see these circumstances in your life change, cardinal change, right? in your money stories, in your business stories, in your creativity stories, in your entrepreneurship stories, in your banking stories, in your investment stories, in your wealth that you possess and save stories, all of that. There's still something good here. It's like, I think a lot of you guys, and I hope I'm one of them, can get a real sense of a fairy godmother dropping some pennies from heaven on your head. But the tension means action and changes are necessary as well. Finally, what if you just want to also make changes with Mars in the second house, connected to matters to do with your food style? You can do that with this story. Okay, there's a dramatic change of food style you could take. You could put to rest gluten forever, and it will vitalize your creativity and your pleasures and joy, and activate some major changes in the way you interact in the world with others. Your large groups of belonging. You might join the Vegan Club of America and start chefing up new recipes together or something like that. All right, because the second house is what you ingest through the mouth and the nose and the throat. So there you go. We're moving on to the next sign. And the next sign is, I am having a hunger attack, but I'm going to keep plowing through. The next sign in our lineup is Cancer. Cancer, you are going to be really in the groove, just like the Aries and the Caps and the Libras and you're in the cardinal axis with this mess. I want you to go back and I want you to think about what's been going on with eclipses since 2023, April, in your 10th house. What changes have you been making about your career? You've got volume up, you're expanding, you want to achieve worldly success in your career since 2023. That's what the North Node propels you to do. Well, as you spend less time South Node in your home, focused on the people you're in living with and focused on the matters of your domestic life. You're propelled to the top of the sky to focus on your career success. That's a story that the eclipses have been generating already. This eclipse is taking cue, this full moon is taking cue from that eclipse of April the 8th. And it's big, bold, volume up, shiny, bright, full moon, not an eclipse, just a full moon, too far away from the node to be an eclipse, full moon, fulfilling something to do with the changes you've been making in your career. Now, fulfillment and completion are words to go with a full moon. You could harvest the rewards. You could complete the cycle. You may shine a bright light in your career space and shine brightly up there, right? This is not an eclipse. You don't have to be eclipsed here. You need to shine brightly up here. So what are you going to do as a big full moon? That is healing your sense of purpose in life. You want to have a purpose. You don't mind a little scandal, a little gossip about you. Salacia's up there. Let it rip, right? Let it rip. Okay. The energy here of Spica Arcturus, 2 luck stars, can't go too wrong. I mean, luck, protection, good things happen with no harm done regarding homeland, property, real estate, legal agreements, and contracts vis-a-vis the opposition to the house of career. Some major changes where you may break some agreements you had with roommates or people you live with. You may even break some legal agreements when it comes to property and home. Don't forget, Pluto mid-November will move into your 8th house. That looks like maybe buying or selling property or taking possession of inheritances from legacy wealth, family members, etc. And that's something that may happen for some of you in the wake of this full moon, because the full moon can unfold over 6 months. It's not just what happens in the week or two around the moon, especially the 2 weeks after. Pluto is in the house of significant relationships, been here since 2008, like your marriage type partners, business partners, challenging the hell out of you to be born again through the death and rebirth experiences in really profound transformational relationships. And maybe you experience death of significant others. Now, Pluto is at the tail end of that story, at the anaretic degree of your 7th house. He happens to be opposite Mars, and Mars is you. You are carrying the Martian sword in your hand. You may be very emotional. You may be very sharp with others, especially your spouse. You might just be very righteous, right? You've got the sort of, I've got this, I'm protecting my territory, my turf, my crab claws are sharper than ever. And you may just have a disposition towards a righteous warrior archetype within you. Yet at the same time, Mars squaring the actual moon, Pluto applying and squaring the actual moon. This is going to say, are you ready to make some major changes by decisions and actions that shift your relationship to your audience, marketplace, clients, significant long-term love, and business partners vis-a-vis a light that you wish to shine super brightly in your 10th house of worldly success? It can be as simple as you telling your partner, husband, wife, I can't really spend that much time taking care of you at home anymore. I've got to roll into this new level of success I'm having in my career. anytime I see the South Node in the fourth house, a lot of people are going to sell or let go of a home or change or move their home. And there may be a big crucible crisis energy picking up in the sky for that kind of change with regards to home and marriage partner, home and business partner, and home and legal agreements to sell or buy. And that energy may unfold in the 6 months after this full moon for you. Yet you got Jupiter supporting you, because as Jupiter moves toward the full moon in the career, you could have great gains from far off foreign shores and lands. You may have prosperity from borderless international revenue. People from far off foreign shores may support your career to succeed and accelerate to a higher level. You may also find with Jupiter in your 12th house that your spiritual life is a big sort of leverage factor. Your private, alone, spiritual downtime, solitude can really help you leverage a guru-like wisdom that you can begin to apply towards the fulfillment of purpose, Chiron, unique gifts, Chiron, and career. I mean, since 2019, a lot of you Cancers felt wounded in the career, as if your worldly success or your career ambitions have not been right on target, not quite feeling like you're on your path. And that is about to change. Watch out for some storms, FYI, with your children if you have them, or your romantic love partner, right? You can see why, right? Venus is sextile Pluto. We're having that covered in my week ahead video that you will see coming out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. The week ahead video will come out and I will be delineating that sextile between Pluto and Venus, creating a loosey-goosey yacht to Jupiter. Moving on to Leo. Leo, sun, moon, and rising. Oh, you fiery beings, you so don't mind these eclipses so much, because the eclipses are flowing to you in what we call a fire trine. So you're kind of enjoying the heat, the hot day in the eclipse sun. But the eclipses have been happening in your 9th house of spiritual belief, spiritual ideology, faith, religion, academic and court settings, things to do with book publishing and publications, including podcasts or publishing a screenplay into a movie. We publish it into reality, becomes archival. So how are you literally going to be voluming up, increasing your worldly success, focused on growth up here at North Node eclipses? And this full moon, taking cue from the April 8th total solar eclipse, can begin to fulfill the mandate, show you the fruitfulness of these eclipses. You may find yourself going back to school, re-educating, applying for college, university, getting a visa, passport, traveling the world. You may want to expand into land of pilgrimage, change your religion, spend some time in a new spiritual philosophy. But as all these things are being pondered, we have a cardinal cross. We have the sun blessedly on 2 very positive stars with Juno, the goddess of marriage and agreements, in the 3rd house of siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and neighbors. Now, those types of people may factor very strongly into this energetic of this square. How are you going to deal with all the tension with younger siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, and nieces and nephews, all those 3rd house people, from backroom deals and negotiations, right? Mars is here. Pluto here in the house of karmic debt servicing and real financial debt servicing. Possibly there's a major turning point going on here as it pertains to matters of your spiritual focus. But if we get down to the nitty gritty, you might change your neighborhood through a job change. You might change your the way you undo yourself through addictions that defeat you by going into some kind of course and learning about it, or studying about how not to be, an addict or a self-saboteur. Education is definitely 9 and 3. And so you're really looking at what you want to know, discover, learn, acquire knowledge or understanding of. And yet you got to deal with that last gasp with Pluto in the 6th house. And that could be like a lot of things, guys, a lot of things. Some of you, with Venus in the 4th house, Pluto, you could lose an elder pet in the middle of this hot mess of a big grand cross. You could find yourself needing to change matters to do with your domicile in a turbulent and stormy way, connected to letting go of your neighborhood, time to move on. South Node in the 3rd house, if you're changing your domicile, you're changing your neighborhood, or you're still moving domestically. Usually it's not a dramatic change, could be more subtle. Um, if you have a younger sibling, one younger than you, that is your third house, and there may be a crisis involving their life and hospitals, okay, or injuries, and travel needs to be involved in order to deal with that. They'll, maybe you'll go visit a sick sibling or something. That's a possibility. Third house matters to do with social media, writing projects, and communications projects and news through the social media outlets is very activated for you on the full moon. And you may find yourself having to make some really strong pivots and changes with regards to how you use your online social media life. Maybe you have to de-addict from it, especially de-addict with the South Node in the house of social media and Mars in the house of self-undoing. It's time to break an addiction of some sort, whether it's social media or another type of habit that really does not serve you. If I had this grand cross in my sky, I wouldn't be too shabbily unhappy with Jupiter, because Jupiter is flowing and moving toward the moon, and the moon is moving towards Jupiter. And they're like, hey, let's meet up. So possibly the moon and Jupiter are saying to each other, Jupiter wants you to have good luck and bounty that he's deepening in his retrograde from your 11th house of friendship circles, allies, benefactors, and the elder sibling. And bounty can come from an elder sibling or from large groups of belonging or benefactors and allies who want to support you from your past. He is retrograde, but it's also aiming at the 9th house of the meaning of life, the Dharma. Jupiter would like you to grow a new community, perhaps, of people who are aligned with your spiritual philosophy or the things that you wish to do, or you may get involved in bountiful career matters connected to international connections in your career. Ultimately, Jupiter is in his joy in your 11th house of good spirit, witnessing the moon, creating a wedge. So I'll be doing the wedge separately in my week ahead video that week, but just know that good breakthroughs are coming from this moon in your connection to bounty and prosperity and goodness in the house of the elder sibling, friends, allies, and benefactors, and direct career gains. All right, Virgo, sun, moon, and rising, full moon light is shining brightly. It's a part of a deeper eclipse story, but the light of the moon is full in the house of secrets. That's always a tricky one because things you don't know will be revealed to you when full moon shine up here. This has been a while because you've been having eclipses and they're not full moons of light, they're dark. So this is now what must be seen, what must be revealed from the April 8th total solar eclipse that blasted a detonation of intensity in your 8th house. The kinds of things that we can find revealed maybe about our family of origin, about our siblings, no, family of origin, and about our mate. Okay, second from the 7th, but also connected to the 4th by trine. So mom, dad, family of origin stories. Full moon here has your attention with the North Node of the idea of gain or increase or volume in the house of death. Now, because Chiron is here, and there's been a wound in your 8th house, and this involves money that you don't own directly. You share it with a spouse, you share it with a long-term partner, you share it with your bank and your credit cards, and you share it with your inheritance monies. Like my daughter doesn't mind when I talk about her. Someone told me if we're talking about my kids, they're fine. She had a bit mini inheritance during Chiron's transit through the 8th house, and she was too young to get the money, and she blew it in one summer. And that's exactly the kind of thing that can happen. You have some wounds around the money that you shared with others and the way that it was used or not used properly. Now, this is trying to heal, which is good. It includes debts you may hold, including credit card excesses and stuff. And so you want to see a full light, a full completion of the wound here, coming to maybe something new. But what about the rest of the story? You have the sun on Spica, Arcturus, right? Really beautiful stars, very positive, lucky, protective energy in the house of self-worth, self-value, but more particularly earnings, resources, and the possessions you have. This is your money from, real life stuff, right? You need this money to pay the rent, and you're getting the paycheck or whatever, and you're saving some money or not, and you're spending money or not. And so this is a beautiful energy of such sweet stars that the moon is reflecting, because it's reflecting the sunlight and the starlight in the 8th house of chunky money. Possibly you may receive an inheritance coming off of this full moon, or You may also look at a positive increase in salary or financial matters somehow coming through, because with Jupiter in your 10th house, right, talking to the both of this in a wedge, it looks like career ambition deepens the plenty in your life over the course of the 6 months, at least, that follow the moon, from seeds that were planted here in April. Because we have an opposition creating that ghastly square in the sky, big grand cross, right? What are we going to do with this mess, right? Well, first of all, Mars is sitting in your 11th house of friends, and Mars is in an emotional state and he's reactive. This is also the sibling one older than you. Emotional overreactions in a relationship with a sibling one older than you, or with connections to friends, groups of belonging, allies, and benefactors. And their emotions are over the top. Opposing Pluto in the house of your sexuality, romantic life, children, and fertility. All said and done, the axis of the houses 11, 2, 5, and 8 are also financial axes. And so therefore, there's a huge intensity around money issues coming to you from this particular full moon. I think it amplitudes and increases your resources financially. Pluto is a wealth god and a house of good fortune, including the energies of winning money. Jupiter is in the 10th house, also giving you some positive financial benefits from career matters as well. Money and children, especially adult children, intense conflicts around guarding financial matters to do with friends and children. Friends and children, and money owed to groups of belonging, friends and children, adult children. Most likely you're not going to fight over the piggy bank you got your kid for Christmas. It's like money, your adult children, and you might have to duke out about or fight about. Okay, ride or die. Mars is in your 11th house, so it's also quite possibly an explosive, intense financial crisis connected to someone who you would consider a friend or an elder sibling, or again, a child. I'm going to stick with that. That's the best I can say. All said and done, though, as I said, with the Jupiter flow sextile from the 10th house into the 8th house, this is going to look financially positive in the long run for you. Jupiter offers a measure of protection and a measure of goodness. Don't forget my 2024 All Signs Bundle. 25 bundle is already out, pre-sale, end of October. That's price ends. Help grow my channel by helping me buy equipment and get some hired help to give me a hand on stuff. That is a fundraiser, and you get to get the content that'll never be on YouTube, 2-hour long videos about your sign for 2025 and a PDF guidebook. Now, I think I'm going to have to get something to eat because I'm hungry, but maybe I can push through and then go wandering off in search of chocolate. I'm on the AIP protocol. I find it amazing, 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 amazing. If you ever had arthritis in your shoulder or knee, like I did, osteo, and it was always bothering you, if you ever had aches and pains in your body and you thought, is this old age? Try it out, guys. The AIP protocol, autoimmune protocol diet, is now more than a month in, as a game changer for sleeps, energy, brain fog gone, everything. So try it out. I don't get any money. This is not a promotion. I just discovered something really cool. And while I've got your attention, I guess I'll just keep going. I do get a lot of trolls. I probably have a shit ton on the election video I just put out. But sometimes people have the weirdest way of trolling. And one of them was like, how dare you talk about your son that way? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? I'm just using it as an example. He totally says it's fine. So some people will take such a moral offense. There's a whole thing about we don't engage in dialogue. We choose to be offended. People's personal offenses at me being me is just beyond me. It's like, why? Like, why? The person said I'll be pilloried for this comment. Not really, but I don't understand the motive behind it. I don't understand. You do you, I do me. We do each other's own way of doing it, right? You do you. I talk about friends and family as examples. They've all given me permission. It's just educational. So just ranting. I need a vent because I'm hungry. I'm hangry. All right, Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. Sky is a big one for you, right? Super important because you're really in the thick of the axis of the Libra Aries eclipses. And you've had to let go of an identity, let go of yourself. You may have been dragged out tired. You may have had some physical health challenges that started up. especially with the first eclipse, but in October of last year, but also just since the nodes have moved here last July into the Aries Libra axis. So you had a lot to deal with, and this is a story that's still continuing. The full moon is taking cue from the Aries eclipse of April the 8th, and a full eclipse in the house of significant partnerships. Now, that can be such a profound detonation of change because it could end a long-term existing partnership if it hasn't already. And that was that eclipse right here. And that was at 19 Aries. So obviously a Libra with an ascendant or sun moon near 19 Aries will be more greatly impacted. But also, what about the fact that this is a full light without the eclipse? It's no longer shadowed out. It's a torch of bright light pointing at the marriage house, the significant other, the clients and audience and marketplace. Now, it's a node of fate and destiny. It could bring you singletons a new relationship because a node of fate is here with the full moon. But it can also be very much revealing to you what you need to know or see or encounter in the house of significant relationships. You need to see what's there, right? For some reason. Because the seventh house is other people, Chiron's guide and mentor, moon is a female force, the fortune's there. Females may enter your life over the course of the 3 days before, up to 6 months after a full moon here, that are pivotal, major influences for your life. You also might note that the sun is sitting in lucky Spica Arcturus sky stories, and you're not too shabby. You might be feeling good about it, especially if your Libra sun, moon, or rising is near, 23 or 24 Libra on that star. The light of the star is reflected in the house of others, and so others can bring you luck, prosperity, goodness into the story from this particular full moon. You may come into a contractual agreement, like a marriage agreement, like a committed love agreement, like a legal contract with another person that's going to benefit you in some way to make changes in your career. You need to make changes. Mars is here. Sure, you might be passionate, driven, emotional, and reactive in your career space. Thank you, Mars. But ultimately, with the retrograde and also with this T square, which is a grand cross to the moon, you're looking like a lot of Libras are looking at massive career change coming off this full moon, connected to new contracts, agreements, or partnership offers. With Pluto in the fourth house, the death of your house, the death of your home, the death of an ancestor, the death of a family member from your family of origin, especially with Pluto in a trine to Uranus in the house of inheritances. Ooh, like who are you going to get money from? Is it mom, dad, grandpa? Ooh, somebody. Some money could come through for some of you. I know not everyone's going to have that happen. Pluto here is demolishing and decimating and ending a story that started way the hell back, guys, all the way back to 2008, to do with power and wealth, a source from family of origin, home, and homeland. You've been chironically wounded in the house of significant relationships since 2019. The full moon is going to try to clear that with a big torchlight of, brilliant illumination. How can you be less wounded in business partnerships and find your new way? How can you find fulfillment in one-on-one connected love, whether that a relationship's already here or a new one is going to emerge? It's time to end the wound in this part of your life and move on. You can notice that, Mars is pretty well, connected to Libitina. And that's like, where do you need to put to rest, rest in peace, some kind of career ambition. You might want to quit a job. Your job might quit you if you don't have a choice around it, because we don't have control sometimes with Cardinal Grand crosses, let alone with nodal axes involved and the malefic energies of Mars up there. How are you quite possibly going to have a very big career change coming your way? Maybe a company you work for is going to shut down. Maybe the boss is going to fire you. Maybe you're going to quit your job anyway, no matter what. If you do, don't worry. Saturn is helping out from your sixth house, but that's another story. You'll find something else. But it's like there's a lot of that thing going on in your sky: career, home, significant relationship, self, the big four. What I think here is important is Jupiter does want to support this, and it's going to be a wedge. I'll do another video. Jupiter is like, let me bring you some luck during these turbulent times of critical change from the ninth house of God. This could be lucky opportunities to do with educational opportunities, foreign people, visas, and travel, pilgrimages, book publishing, higher education. These areas are favored, and a full moon in the seventh house, for instance, could be publishing a best-selling book that is popular with the people. Audience and marketplace is your seventh house. And the light of Spica bringing you luck in these endeavors, luck in getting into your favorite school, luck in getting a trip with your partner abroad, luck in journeys and travel to foreign places that bring you great fulfillment in significant business and love partnerships. That's the good news from Jupiter in this story. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. The sky says that you've got a action-packed grand cross in the sky. You want to go back to the eclipses to begin in Chiron. You've had eclipses in Aries going through your house of work, pets, tenancies, rentals, debts, real and karmic, health matters, and work routines. You've had eclipses changing all of that part of your sky ever since 2023, April. And you've been chironically wounded here since 2019. Maybe the work doesn't feel true. Maybe the pet died. Maybe the pet's sick. Maybe you want a pet and can't have a pet. Maybe your work and health routines suck ass. I don't know. You. It's just been a challenge area. Now, there's a full light here, a full moon to fulfill the change quotient that wants to redo it, to bring expansion and growth, to expand your work and job, to expand the healing of your health challenges, right? Chiron healer. Good to see chiropractors, acupuncturists when Chiron goes through your sixth house. Just a tip for all of you. The fates and the fortunes are whispering here in the sixth house of work, and the sun, ruler of the 10th house, is in the 12th house of self-undoing, or foreign shores and foreign lands. Couple of thoughts. Some of you might get a job in a foreign land or foreign shore, a new job as a result of this. Lucky Spica, Arcturus, protection, contracts, and agreements. But however, if there's anything you're doing home alone in your private downtime, your solitudinous life that you prefer, to do when you're alone, it could be indicating some changes in your career as a result of home alone activities. But also, if you've been addicted to something, self-undoing, addictions, bad habits, and patterns, the axis of 612, something wants to give, something needs to change. We want to become more healed and more whole. The square from Mars and Pluto, and also, of course, the big T square that forms here. This is intense, and this is, already a square is demanding change, and let alone a T square. So Mars says you need to make some changes to do with your spiritual philosophy, your beliefs, your visas and travel plans. My son, who's a Scorpio, lost his visa, his Canadian citizenship certificate, a total tension angle as he tries to get the red tape to get it recovered from our very slow government. That's a Mars frustration and emotions, right, in the 9th house. That's a very funny practical example, but this isn't not to make light of this energy, right? Because it's the last time in your life you'll have a Pluto in Capricorn creating this kind of intensity from the 3rd house. You may have an educational moment here. You want to learn something. You want to power into some new educational direction, both Mars and 9 and 3. Or you may want to change your spiritual philosophy dramatically. I quit the church. They're stupid. You might want to change your relationship to father figures. 9th house can be that. And Mars is cutting, severing, and ending. And father figure is in the house of hospitals, but with the blessed stars around it. Could just be a positive thing with a father in a hospital, but South Node loss. So some of you father figures in the 6 months that follow this may pass. I'm just saying, it happens, guys, because Jupiter is in the house of inheritances. And so just keep it in mind. I think with Pluto in the 3rd house, if you're at all someone in the social media world, that's where Pluto's traveling, and you've been doing a lot of social media stuff in, writing, communicating, website, social media since 2008. Now there's this major turning point energy that's playing out. And, Pluto is a god of riches, and Uranus is on a well start in the house of the audience. Just a very few of you creatives may have a breakthrough, a viral breakthrough in some online social media creative endeavor, or including the word book publishing. What I like a lot is Jupiter. because he is telling us there's a silver lining. He's in a flow to the moon and he's in a flow to the sun. It's called a wedge. And he's bringing bounty and goodness in the house of inheritances, chunky money, shared resources with your spouse or significant other or business partnerships. And those places bring an incredible amount of goodness through the house of karmic debts. You can pay off debts. Something about this can allow you to pay off a mortgage, pay off a credit card, or have debts owed to you, returned to you, or coming to you so that you can be less indebted. So your indebtedness to others karmically and your debt to others literally can be mitigated in the 6 months that follows this particular intense cardinal cross full moon in Aries. And you're Mars ruled. So when your ruler's in detriment, you have to be a little more cautious that you don't fly off the handle. The only good news is that Mars is flowing to you and you have Venus in there and you're feeling charming, if not tempted by the Gorgons and the Hydras and the sea serpents. Watch out for water danger. If you are a Scorpio rising, around this full moon, please watch out for water dangers. Like, do not fall into a toxic sludge puddle that's contaminated or something. Do not slip off your surfboard in a bad way. Okay. Be careful for water dangers for Scorpios, please, around the October 17th timeframe. Mars is your ally, but he's in his fall, right? So you don't want to fall from a great height into some sludgy water. So I'm telling you guys, I'll hear it in the comments later about your water problems. Be careful. I know you can't help if you're in a hurricane area of the country, but I mean, if you can help it, stay away from dangerous water. And don't ask me to, don't give me your chart in the comments and ask me to give you my opinion. I can't do that. I don't have time. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. You're going to experience the energy of a full moon in a place where you've already had a full moon eclipses and solar eclipses as well, whatever. You just had eclipse energy here. So your fifth house has been activated ever since 2023 by eclipses here. And now you're having a full light, a full moon shining brightly here, and especially after October 8th eclipse. So first of all, number one, where Sagittarius are you wounded with your relationship to fertility, pregnancy, romance, sexuality, and children, creativity, and entrepreneurship, right? The chironic wound's been here since 2019. Now you have this full moon light without an eclipse. Everything wants to be shown to you, how to heal this, how to deal it up once and for all, forever and ever. But also a full moon light is in a place where the North Node says expand and grow, get creative, get pregnant, get children, get sexy, get romantic, get money luck, win a lottery even, right? Do it. And it's opposite the sun, and the sun is happily nestled in to the lovely fixed star Spica and Arcturus, which are lucky, prosperous, successful, happy stars with, of course, with Juno, the goddess of agreements and commitments. If you're a single Sag and this is a full moon in the romance house with that Libra thing up there with Juno, you're going to meet somebody. You're going to meet somebody and you're going to fall madly in love, and you're going to meet them in a social group or with friends and groups of belonging. And with Jupiter here retrograde, maybe you've met them before. Maybe you have crossed paths with this bounteous, plentiful, magnanimous potential love partner, and you're going to re-encounter that person, and there will be a new love story for you. That's a possibility. Also, Sagittarius, you have to deal with the Mars opposite Pluto. Okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? There's a big T square here. So first of all, Mars is the ruler of the moon, and he's in his fall. He's not doing so well. I know there's a mutual reception, but he's not doing so well here. He's in a place of fall in the house of money that you share with your love partner, your business partner, your inheritance money, your stock investment money, and you got a fallen Mars here. It's often a very difficult financial situation when you see this. You might be fighting for the money with your spouse, separating assets, money disagreements over inheritances. You get the vibe, right? Now, Pluto in the second house of self-worth and self-value, but also what you possess, including your bank accounts, your savings, your resources. There's a lot of money tension in the sky off of this Sagittarius. What the heck are you going through? And is it something that you're going through that connects to children, romantic love, or friends and money? Some of you might be really having a difficult moment with a child and financial matters, whether expenditures for a little one or money that a child of yours wants from you, something like that, an adult child. You're kind of propelled here on the axis of 2, 8, 11, 5 to figure out something about finances, resources, and success, especially around career, because the sun is in a house that represents money directly from career and actions you take in the public. So there's something going on around that kind of money as well for you. It's the last time you're going to have Pluto, going through your second house of resources and money and ways to be financially successful. So it can be a positive gift, a last hurrah. Mars is on Libitina, the funeral asteroid in the house of death, the death of a marriage and getting your spousal resources out of it, the death of an elder in the family of origin, Saturn in the fourth house, and some financial money or means coming your way in the wake of this story. With Jupiter, Jupiter in the house of significant others, and Jupiter flowing in a sextile to the moon, right, and to the sun in a wedge. What is that anyway? It looks to me like you might find yourself, well, Jupiter's retrenching and he's going backwards, right? You could go backward to an old romantic love story and it could be very fruitful for you. But you can also change your mind about a current love story, your partner changing it. And there's a lot of, it's a blessed ending. Some of you may have blessed endings in existing love stories, but it's going to also be fruitful for you on the financial front in the ultimate long run game. Maybe your partner drains your money out. He or she's always spending it. Maybe it's time to say, this is mine, this is yours. Let's go our own way. Some of you in relationships will do that. Okay. If you're not in a relationship, you might meet somebody, as I said, but maybe somebody from your past, and that could heat up a hot new romance and you'll heal the sex romance wound that you've been going through for a long time as you get some salaciousness going here. Ooh, the sexy salacious scandal of your renewed love stories. Well, it'd be a salacious scandal if you went back to your ex-wife or ex-husband, wouldn't it? And told your current partner, I'm out of here. That's a funny example, but it could be something as crazy as that. I'm not kidding you. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a big full moonlight, and it's in a part of your sky that you've been wounded in since 2019. It's your home, property, real estate, where you live, belonging, feeling like you belong in wherever you live. That childhood wounds having to be addressed, relationship wounds to the mother having to be addressed since 2019. Now, I would say that the eclipses are changing that. And Chiron's healing that now with these eclipses, but the full moon is shining a flashlight in the bottom of the midnight hour of your chart, the fourth house. What do you need to see? What needs to be fulfilled? What needs to be revealed regarding your home, the desire to belong to a home? You might actually complete the lessons of feeling like you do not belong and you do not have a true home. You may be fulfilled by having a true home. And because this is reflecting the lucky stars Spica and Arcturus, which are also prosperity stars, you may even be displaying the potential for new home energies positively reinforced from career ambitions, success, and opportunity, or through your reputation. Things to do with how people see you in the world, and and suddenly that shines a new light into how you feel at home in your home. I mean, Mars is here in the house of your significant other, and Pluto is here in the house of you. Last gasp, Pluto 2008 through the house of you. You've been transforming your sense of self, your relationship to power, your relationship to wealth and riches, and who you think you really are anyway. Underneath all of it, deep dive into self. And as you've been going through that, this Pluto's last gift and last stand is here, and he's direct, and he's looking in his direct motion at the full moon in the fourth house where you got that wound. It is time to make some decisions, I think, to willpower into transpersonal forces of will to get yourself a home where you feel like you belong. However, Also, there is this opposition from Mars. You may need to break away from a long-term love relationship, or you may get a divorce or separate physically from someone that's important to you. But that's okay. I mean, sometimes Mars here, because he will retrograde, he'll be back, just means time apart from somebody. But that time apart is also pointing you in the direction of home. So will you go back to your own home, a homeland? Do you need to find out where your true home lies? Is there some kind of intensity here with Salacia and some scandals that are going on connected to your family of origin, dad, mom, and anyone you grew up with in your family home? The seventh house is a sibling 1, 2, 3 older than you. Is there a major turning point with a sibling 3 older than you? And things to do with real estate, land, property, and home. The sun rules the house of inheritances. Could you inherit money through a sibling? It's possible. Now, because the sun is involved in the full moon. Jupiter is dispensing some sweet succor. He's like your lemonade from the lemons guy. And he's saying, and all said and done, I'll help you with your debts, your pets, your karmic debts, your health matters, and your work. And certainly he is flowing to that sun. So it could look like some blessed work opportunities emerging. And because of the fourth house connected to home, property, land, and real estate, or a change of home. So if you're looking for your true home, some of it could open up a door in the wake of this full moon to do with a career or work opportunity and the idea of a new home. And it may also enhance the idea of a beautiful new rental opportunity for you to be a tenant of a gorgeous rental opportunity, or to be a landlord and get a great tenant. But these are sidebar stories, obviously. Jupiter is retrograding your house of work opportunities, 6 houses work. And of course, we have a full, we have a sun on beautiful star spike Arcturus with the contractual agreements of Juno, a new job contract offer from people from your past, colleagues, coworkers coming your way, or a place you've worked before. These are possible for those Capricorns in search of work or job work stuff. All right. And lastly, it's all very much in this axis of identity, right? This is a Capricorn story, an Aries story, a Libra story, and a Cancer story. All of the cardinals are highly impacted by this full moon. And so your whole wheel of fortune spins, right? Everything can change off of this full moon. Home, relationship, career path, and sense of self. Everything's under transformative change. 3 days before, 2 weeks after, and up to 6 months after this full moon. Next. Oh, yeah, right. Clear my drawings. Moving on. Aquarius, I am one of you. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. What a day, right? I'm working my ass off over here on behalf of all of us. Let me just do something over here. I'm checking off what I got accomplished today off a checklist of things. I still do old school written to-do lists. So Aquarius, oh my goodness, we are going to have, this is a full moon. It is in the sign of Aries, and we've had a wound in Aries ever since 2019. Why? Chiron's been here. This is like your writing house. Yeah, I haven't written anything worthwhile. This is not just a writing house. It's your travel, short distance. Yeah, don't take those unsafe, ineffective protocols in Canada. I wasn't allowed to board a train, plane, or automobile train. I couldn't travel domestically. I couldn't travel internationally. I was wounded in the house of short distance travel. Couldn't travel in my own country because of a measure I did not think was safe or effective during the pandemic. And the wound of writing, I'm giving me as an example, right? You know, what's your wound there? Wound with a younger sibling, wound with siblings in general, wounds with aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, neighborhood, writing, traveling, teaching, and learning. Wounded. Now, the full moon is coming off of the eclipse on April the 8th, and therefore the detonation of April the 8th is trying to change the wound, and the full moon is shining a completion, of fulfillment, and maybe the end of the wound. And so for me, as an example, I'll write the damn book, right? One of my astrology books, my fiction books, I'll finally finish the thing, let alone the book proposal for the sweet Eileen agent who's waiting patiently while I get some of my production out of the way to get a book proposal to her for an astrology book. You know, to me, the wound is healing. That's great. But what are we doing with all of the other stories? We have a sun Conduct Arcturus and Spicus and contractual agreements in the house of foreign lands, foreign shores, visas, third marriages, book publishing, academic environments, and spiritual philosophy. For me, it's obviously an attempt by the sky to give me a book publishing deal because I have finally gotten over my writing wound. That's an example. And that's not just playing out on the moon of October 17th, it's playing out at least 6 months after, and maybe 3 days before. At the same time, the T square, well, the Grand Cross is here, and we have to deal with these very big forces. This is like an axis here of 3 and 9 and 12 and 6 is karmatic. That's between the worlds. It's metacosmos. It has to do with meaning of life, about questing for truth, wisdom, and knowledge. It's that spiritual axis of the chart that's highly activated. Pluto has been going through Capricorn in your sky since 2008 for spiritual enlightenment, should you have been ready for it. So there can be some more spiritual awakening innervated in the crisis conflict energies of this particular Grand Cross that catapults you to some spiritual enlightenment through something that just jumpstarts it all. Mars is in the house of work and in the house of health, and he's working his ass off, and he's in his joy here. So he's strong by joy, but he's in a fallen place. This is where you burn out. This is where you injure yourself because you're working too hard. This is where you have inflammation because you work too hard. This is where you are your own worst hardworking slave driver of yourself, right? So be careful, because Mars is fallen and he's in his joy and he likes to work. He's working here. It's a workhouse. He's working hard. Driving to work. I mean, getting it done, ride or die on the work. But what could be going on around this October 17th is a crisis around the work environment and the health matters to do with work and health routines, but also a dramatic and shocking and surprising change of home, because he's also going to sextile Uranus. And all of a sudden, boom, there's a new home. Could be a rental contract. Could be anything. And there's also the energy that Pluto is applying towards the full moon. Major soul changes, no more addiction, self-undoing, bad habits and patterns. Deep soul work is coming through the sky. But Pluto is also riches and wealth from far off foreign shores and places. And the ninth house is a house of foreign places. So riches from far off foreign shores and places are catalytic energies for you. Borderless international revenue and income through third house means online, social media, digital income, websites, digital products. This is a promise for greater wealth. But why is the tension here? Because Mars is working his ass off, and Pluto would just have rather a treasure chest, maybe. I find this kind of axis sometimes subtle, because as soon as we talk about 6-12, we're also talking about things that we can't really cognate or understand, because our Aquarius sun, moon, and rising is an aversion to houses 6 and 12. Things are happening that are powerful, but subtle or under the surface. Okay. The only other thing I could say is you could quit or change a job dramatically and suddenly because of travel or educational reasons. 6-3 square Mars in the house of work. Dramatic changes in relationships to your siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews may occur in the energy of this full moon completion light in your third house. Third house is siblings in general, but it can represent the sibling one younger than you, and it's a major crisis, especially with Pluto in the house of hospitals. Hopefully not that a sibling is in a hospital, but siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews in hospitals. Could be a story here. Just could be, may not be. Jupiter is bringing something really luscious to you, right? Jupiter is saying, any of you want to apply for college, university, travel, take visas, this is in the sky, but Mars has to make the actions and decisions happen. And it could be like, I got to go to work. I can't possibly travel. I can't possibly enroll in that school. I got to work, bitch. Britney Spears, you want a Maserati? Work, bitch. I used to dance to that song. I never should have. I loved it. And I think I made it my mantra to work, bitch. And so Mars is working, bitch, right? Ride or die, work, bitch. And you may have to make some critical turning point decisions, not just October 17th, but over the course of the 6 months that follow. to do with what you really want in your spiritual life, in your travel, in your third marriage environments, in relationship to your siblings or aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, and neighborhoods. But if you want to get to a real funny one, it could be someone in your neighborhood is fighting with you about your dog barking, and that's a big crisis moment you're going to encounter because pets are your third house and the neighbors are your third. Jupiter's a bright light in the sky. He says, don't worry, be happy. He is flowing to the moon. He's flowing to the sun. He's the wedge god here, like a little door stopper. He's kind of going to bring the bright spot. He's in the house of lottery winnings. He is Jupiter. He's retrograde. You played that lottery before, not your first rodeo with that one, or the casino you used to win at. You might win again. So winning money can happen. And Jupiter's in the house of your children, and they could be very lucky here as well. But it's the way Jupiter is flowing to the sun in the ninth house of government institutions. There's the lottery win, but also flowing to the thing to do with the meaning of your life, the deeper depths of meaning, whether it's book publishing, higher education, soulful, spiritual communities. Jupiter is trying to bring some new amplification of that during this full moon. But as he flows to your moon itself in the third house, he can say creative, entrepreneurial business projects that involve websites, writing, communicating, and teaching want to be amplified for greater North Node volume up success as a fulfillment promise. And it's not always just one thing. So I'll finish up to say, the third house has so many meanings. It's the kitchen sink of the chart. But it is literally the people that would be close around you that don't live in your home. Okay. So great, big, full light shining in that kind of environment, bringing some positive changes to your luck and bounty with creativity, entrepreneur projects, and even your children. Could be a sudden opportunity to move closer to one of your children or them to you. That's just an example, okay? Yeah. Because with Uranus on Algol and all that change current of shock and awe in your fourth house of home and Mars in the sixth house, again, it looks like a change of home could emerge in the wake of this full moon. And the reason I'm talking about it is Mars is talking to Uranus, Algol, and change and shock and surprise to do with your property, home, and land and real estate, especially if it is a rental. And there may be a change coming, and that could be also connected to a change of neighborhood from the full moon's perspective. And lastly, I have to unannotate, and bestly, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. Go Pisces. So a full moon shines in the sign. You can't see it, but the moon is really over here in the Aries. You've had a chironic wound around your face, your physical face, your teeth, your nose, your food style, and your earnings, possessions, and resources ever since, drum roll please, 2019, because Chiron's been traveling there, and all these eclipses have been trying to activate the end of the wound. And so the eclipses started here in April of 23. And these Aries eclipses are activating change that's destined in all the things I mentioned: money, earnings, food style, facial appearance, teeth. Okay. Throat. Maybe you got Hashimoto's thyroiditis during that time. Who knows? So now you're making changes because the sky is doing destined changes here. No more wound. At the same time, the full moon is reflecting a very beautiful starlight, and it's the light of Spica in the house of chunky money. Now, that's shared money with your spouse. That's money from insurance payouts, money from tax rebates, money from credit card debts, mortgage holders, finance, shareholders in a company, inheritance money, spousal support money, and separations and divorce. Okay. That money, those resources are under the lucky light of a sun on Arcturus and Spica with Juno, the goddess of contractual agreements. And that energy is flowing to be revealed in the second house of an increase in your own personal resources. This is very good for anyone going through a divorce. You, as the Pisces, are going to benefit greatly from getting the possessions of what's due you in the marital separation. Now, also, you're going to end up with a South Node eclipse cycle moving through your marriage house. right? And we already had an eclipse over here. So a lot of you in long-term marriages as Pisces may be finding that these marriages aren't that solid over the next couple of years, 25, 26. Get ready for that. So this could be a opening salvo. This is a full moon that increases your financial wellness. It wants to blow it up, complete it, fulfill it, and make some apples fall off the tree. So it's Fortuna. Hopefully you're deserving of the fortunes, and maybe a bit of scandal about how those fortunes increase for you. Keep it in mind. It also is unfortunately or fortunately square these two babies, making a grand cross happen. Nothing like an achievement cross that demands you pay attention. How are you going to do it? When number one, this is children, and this is a fallen emo child or a relationship to a child that's fraught with emotion and potentially conflict. Watch out for that. If you don't have children, watch out for treacherous love affairs. Don't get involved with a new person under this story. But you may also have disagreements with a child moving out of the house, fights with a child, fights with your significant romantic lover or love partner. And you might end up seeing that with the opposition to Pluto in the 11th house of good spirit, where your hopes, dreams, and wishes happen, and Mars in the house of good fortune. This is malefic energy in positive houses. You may have a very radical turning point regarding a relationship with an elder sibling, one above you, a friend, a benefactor, a child, or a romantic lover partner. The person with whom you are sexually engaged, but I don't care if you're married or not. And this critical turning point, well, Mars is flowing to the house of shared resources. So fights over shared resources with children and with your spouse, but also intense energies that require action and decisions. Mars regarding entrepreneurial endeavors and creative projects are other fifth house meanings. You might find that with Pluto in the 11th house, finishing up a story that began in 2008, you're done with the death and rebirth process with regards to friends of belonging, groups of belonging, an elder sibling, one above you, that kind of thing, the transformational processes of death and rebirth, inside out, upside downs, and those kinds of connections. You're kind of toast, you're done, because this is a square from Pluto to the moon and the moon to Pluto. Your self-worth, your self-worth and your physical net worth are on the game board for some massive change. Some of you may have lost in love, right? Mars Pluto opposition in the romance and love friendship house. Major death and losses in love are being reconciled here. And there may be some financial recompense from those things, such as a life insurance policy or some payout from the loss of someone very close to you in love. Now, because we also have Jupiter supporting the story from the 4th house and flowing to the 8th, money can be had from inheritances, or money can be had from land, property, real estate transactions, selling or buying. And that's Jupiter's happy story because he's flowing to the moon, which wants to give you more money and possessions and resources. So it looks like some of you may be able to expedite that through an inheritance from your family of origin, maybe from a father figure, including a spouse. And, you know, a father figure, a spouse can actually be someone who just takes care of you like a parent, right? So you may find that you're going to get money out of those situations. But the blessings of Jupiter in the 4th house means you can be lucky and prosperous in making your own kingdom of wealth in and from your home. This is to increase your reliance on money you make and the money you hustle for, not the money that comes from the inheritance, the spousal support. But yet the light of Spica and the sun shining into the 2nd house of resources and earnings can only benefit your finances in the long run. You know, you got the algal shock and awe in the house of neighbors and neighborhoods. You can't forget that algal Uranus is down here. And potentially with that energy playing out in the sky, the algal Uranus story, coincident with everything else here, if there is any kind of money coming through the chart, it could come through the sibling axis as well. Algal is in a house of a sibling younger, Pluto in the house of a sibling older, and a shocking, surprising wealth story in the family of origin may indeed not just be from a mom and dad, but also from a sibling. Okay, so in a positive way. And that's all I have for you. This is happening on the 17th of October. And You will still see a turbulent, tempestuous Venus in the ninth house. So watch out for that. But that's a whole video coming up. Don't forget, if you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed, I do all sign videos every week for the week ahead. And I also do individual videos for your sign. So you might want to jump aboard, hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Don't forget, you can also get my 2025 All Signs Bundle or individual videos. It's cold here in Vancouver, and you may be able to get that if you hear this before October 31st, because after that, it's toast. It's gone. So grab the pre-sale price. It's my fundraiser. You get 2 hours of content for your sign. Never see this on YouTube. It's a deep dive from me, and also a PDF guidebook that I write just for you, not an AI. All right. Oh my God, guys, I'm losing my voice. Have a great day. Wait for that moon. I will be doing a follow-up video closer to it for the world events. Ciao, everybody, and have a good week ahead. This should be coming out on a Thursday. Bye-bye.